آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما نافعا يا رب العالمين. اللهم لا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا ولا إلى أحد من خلقك طرفة عين ولا أقل من ذلك. We continue reading from the book titled المنهج السوي بشرح أصول طريقة السادة البعلوي للحبيب زين بن سميط نفعنا الله به وبكم وبسائر الصالحين في الدارين آمين. تقدمنا. So we our last discussion, we're reading from the 6th chapter في بعض الحكم المأثورة عن جماعة من أعيان السادة العلوية, and we said that the term علوية or علوي, there are two interpretations for it. The one is, or at least two that I'm aware of. The one is علوي نسبة إلى سيدنا علي, on relation to the attribution to Sayyidina Ali, the relation, the lineage going ending up in Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, as the grandfather, the great grandfather from him, and Sayyidina Fatima al-Zahra, and then Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And another one was through Sayyidina Alawi Al-Ghayur, who was the first person to be named Alawi within the chain of the Sada al-Ba'alawi. Allahu Akbar. So Al-Imam Umar bin Abdul Rahman al-Attas, he shares some of his, or they share some of his hikam with us. And we said that Habib Umar bin Abdul Rahman al-Attas was one of the qutubs of his time. He reached a very high level of suluk, of wilaya, and one of his hikam was al-aqil yudar wa la yadur, and we spoke about this last week. A person with intellect is one who is harmed, but in the process he does not harm others. He's inevitably he will be harmed, but he doesn't cause harm unto others. Subhanallah, Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, khayru khalqillah bila mira, the best of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation, undoubtedly, despite him reaching the pinnacle of being harmed and pain, suffering being afflicted upon him and his family, salawatu rabbi wa salamu alayhi, and his companions, at no point in time did he retaliate or meet that type of treatment with a similar treatment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, وَإِنْ عَاقَبْتُمْ فَعَاقِبُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا عُوقِبْتُمْ بِهِ. After they mutilated his uncle Sayyidina Hamza in the battle of Uhud, and they جَدَعُوا أَنْفَهُ, cut off his nose, وَبَقَرُوا بَطْنَهُ, they slit his stomach open, أَخْرَجُوا أَمْعَاءَهُ. Hind, she took his liver and she put it and she spat it out, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And when he saw the state of his uncle Hamza, Sayyidina Hamza, he became very sad. And he said, Wallahi la umathilanna bi sab'ina minhum, I will do this unto 70 of them. And if was he entitled to, he was entitled. Sayyidina Hamza was not like 70. Sayyidina Hamza, in terms of his status and his rank with Allah, was greater than 70 of them. 70 men, 70 ordinary men. Right? However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verses, وَإِنْ عَاقَبْتُمْ فَعَاقِبُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا عُوقِبْتُمْ بِهِ وَلَئِنْ صَبَرْتُمْ لَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لِلصَّابِرِينَ. And if you were to retaliate, then let it be in proportion to that which was done unto you. Because one person, let the retaliation be one. One for one. Two for two. An eye for an eye. A tooth for a tooth. An ear for an ear. But if you were to exercise sabr, then know that sabr is best for those who endure and persevere. وَاصْبِرْ وَمَا صَبْرُكَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. And endure, for know that your endurance and your sabr is only for Him, and meaning it will only be rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَالْعَاقِلْ يُضَرُّ وَلَا يَضُرُّ. The person with intellect is one who is harmed, but he does not meet that harm with harm. He doesn't cause harm unto others. The hikmah of today, he says, and this is a bit of perhaps an interesting one. I don't necessarily have all the answers, but I can merely explain the zahir of it, and we can discuss it. So he says, إن جور الدولة في حق الرعية وأخذ أموالهم إنما هو زيادة للرعية في الدين والدنيا والآخرة. So دولة is a state, it's a country. Jawr would be oppression, and Ra'iyya would be your citizens. So essentially what Al-Habib Abdul Rahman is saying, and this is obviously Kalam al-Kibar, Al-Habib Umar bin Abdul Rahman, this is when we try and unpack the statements, we can't do justice to it, because I may have one angle in which I understand it, when in reality people like this, when they speak, they speak from a multifaceted aspect. They speak from the zahir and they speak from the batin. So the batin, I don't understand the extent of the kalam, and we can but look at the zahir, the outer meaning of what they are saying, and try to make sense of it, when even the zahir, the intended zahir, outer meaning, what they intended, is not even fully encompassed by someone like myself. But we can but attempt to understand what they are saying, and we ask Allah Ta'ala to grant us the true understanding, insha'Allah. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ. The knowledge of the haqiqah and the reality comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the oppression of a state towards its citizens, and the state taking their wealth from them. It is in reality زيادة للرعية في الدين والدنيا والآخرة. For the citizens, it is a benefit to them. It is an increment. It's an increase. It is to their benefit in their deen, in the dunya and the akhirah. The oppression of a state onto its citizens or towards its citizens, by way of example, by taking their wealth, أخذ أموالهم. What can the person do? He's a citizen of the state. Do you go out? Do you go up against the entire country? What do? He says that form of jawr, of oppression, that form of injustice, its benefit only comes back to the person, the citizen. He shall see the benefit of it in his deen. He shall see the benefit of it in his dunya, and he will most certainly see the benefit of it in his akhirah. Why is this important? Because the fact that when we speak about governmental organizations, governmental bodies, local authorities, generally bodies that is very difficult to go against, and people would say that, are you going to not take them on? You can't take them away. You're going to get nowhere. They easily get to do what they want to do. Yes. Some people, they take them on and they may be successful, and some people, they don't have the ability to take them on. But what he's saying is it doesn't go unnoticed. It doesn't go unnoticed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of it being the state, doesn't mean that Allah ta'ala won't hold them accountable. Who's them now? The state. Can a person hold the state? Can a state be held accountable? So the representatives of the state, those who are in charge of the affairs of the citizens, of the flock, of those who are beneath them, of the dependents, they are held accountable, for they represent the interests of the people. When they took the duty and when they accepted the responsibility, they accepted the responsibility as servants of the public, as servants of the inhabitants of that area or of that province or that geographical location or that country. And therefore Allah will hold them accountable. Allah will hold them accountable for it. Everyone based on his portfolio, based on what he is expected to deliver in terms of his job description, in terms of what he was supposed to deliver within the portfolio of his as a servant of the public, servant of the citizens, servant of the inhabitants of that area. That's what you will be asked for. ما من عبد يسترعيه الله رعية يموت يوم يموت وهو غاش لرعيته إلا جيء به يوم القيامة وهو مكتوب بين عينيه آيس من رحمة الله. There's no person who's placed in charge of a flock. He's placed in charge of people. He's in a position of responsibility. He's in a position of authority. And he has people who's dependent on him. He dies the day he dies. He passes away and he has not fulfilled. He has cheated those who he had been in charge of. He has not given their haqq. He has usurped their rights. The day he passes away, and that is his state and his condition, he will be resurrected on the day of Qiyamah, and between his eyes will be written on the day of Qiyamah. On his forehead will be Ayisun min rahmatillah. There is no hope for him in the mercy of Allah. And Allah's mercy on the day of Qiyamah is great. Allah's mercy is 99-fold. 1% of it came down to the dunya. 99% of it is Allah Ta'ala stored it for the day of Qiyamah. From that 1%, from Nabi Adam alayhi salam until the end of time, Allah Ta'ala allowed that 1% to be distributed amongst everyone. Not only human beings, jinn, animals, malaika, everyone. That 1% in the dunya is currently being distributed. So the mother showing affection to her child is from that mercy. And the husband and the wife showing affection towards each other is from that mercy. And every other human being and even the animals showing mercy towards each other is from Allah Ta'ala's mercy. And the 99% is saved for the day of Qiyamah. So can you imagine the extent of Allah's mercy on the day of Qiyamah? And can you imagine what the loss it is for a person when Allah says, you have no share in my mercy on the day of Qiyamah. Brothers can come closer, inshallah. Let's move forward. You're occupying space that people. Wallah can sit in. I don't know, there's not behind me. So I can see more. I don't want to fix my back for more than that. I don't want to fix my back for more than that. Allahu Akbar. So, where does this leave us? Where does this leave us? Is it completely a lost case with the state? Is it completely a lost state with your governmental bodies? Is it completely a lost state with your local authorities? Or does it mean that, whatever you've taken from me, Allah Ta'ala will Allah will repay me on the day of Qiyamah? And hence the reason why taking responsibility, where one is in charge of people or is in placed in the authority of looking at attending to the affairs of people, is an extremely difficult post. And one of the reasons why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke very hard against a hakim, a ruler, and a qadi, a judge, because of the position that they are placed in. The position they are placed in of authority and the amana that they are given towards the people that they are in charge of. Every single person. The person who has not fulfilled his haqq towards his dependents is ghashun li ra'iyati. He has cheated them out of their haqq, out of their right. Allah is going to most certainly hold him accountable. Allah will hold him accountable. Those who are documenting laws, and that those laws are prejudicial towards the inhabitants, laws that discriminate against people, laws that causes harm, laws that transgresses the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And by virtue of that, they impose upon the citizens and inhabitants to live a life contrary to that which Allah ta'ala had commanded. And the one who doesn't abide will be imprisoned. He will be held accountable. The law writers, those who execute it, those who execute the laws, and those laws are hukm al-jahiliyyah, laws of jahiliyyah, of ignorance. And the hukm of jahiliyyah doesn't only refer to the pre-Islamic era. Hukm al-jahiliyyah here refers to any law that is a law that contravenes the Quran and the Sunnah. That is known as hukm al-jahiliyyah. أَفَحُكْمَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ يَبْغُونَ وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ مِنَ اللَّهِ حُكْمًا لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. So any law that contravenes the laws of Sharia is known as hukm al-jahiliyyah. Law of ignorance, laws of misguidance. So those who the law writers, those who approve them, those who enact them, those who enforce them, all of them will be held accountable. Those who impose upon people fines that are unjustified, levies that are unjustified, taxes that are unjustified, all of them will be held accountable. Starting from the person who wrote the law, to the person who enacted the law, to the person who executes the law. All of them will be held accountable. On the day of Qiyamah, Allah says, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. You're going to be questioned. You're going to be answerable to Allah subhanahu. You're going to be interrogated. And may Allah ta'ala make our hisab to be easy. Oh Allah, grant us into Jannah without hisab, ya Rab. So, coming back to our discussion. And here I don't claim to have all the answers. But the whole discussion of maks in Sharia. Maks in Sharia is unjustified levies. Illegal levies in terms of Sharia. And therefore the Prophet says, لا يدخل الجنة مكاس. The person, a makas is the one who collects. So you have the maks, which is the illegal, in terms of Sharia, levies and taxes that are imposed upon a person. And the makas is the collector of that revenue. The Prophet says the one who collects it will not enter Jannah. The one who collects it will not enter Jannah. So there's a discussion amongst the scholars that taxes that are imposed in terms of a state, does it fall under maks? Or does it fall under justified ضرائب? The way they call it today is a very fancy terminology, ضريبة, ضرائب, taxes. Or عشار, jizya. Jizya generally was imposed upon the non-Muslims within a Muslim state, and on account of the jizya they were afforded protection. So they were the dhimmiyin. There's a dhimma, and the dhimma, they have a right upon us. We've given them our entitlement that we as the Muslim state will protect you. If ever there is an attack from outside, we will offer you that. You are entitled to receive the services. You're entitled to benefit from living in the state, in the Muslim state, and you can practice your religion, and we don't impose Islam upon you. And there is a dariba, or rather there is a jizya that is paid. So some scholars say that's similar to the jizya. The dariba, the taxes are similar to the jizya, in that you're living in a state, and living in the state entitles you to benefits. The money you pay goes towards the services, roads, all of those things. You are protected under the state, and because of that, your taxes afford you that. The difference, however, and from my very limited understanding, is that the jizya is not imposed upon the person. The person is allowed to. He's given the choice. Either you pay the jizya or you have the right to go wherever. That was prior to the legislation of prior to the lands being cut up and countries and those things. So anyone could travel wherever they want to, and they could live wherever they want to. Now because of countries, I'm born as a citizen of a certain country, and there was no option given to me. I was born, and because I was born in the state, I have to abide by the constitution, and I have to abide by the laws that supports the constitution, or the supporting laws. And if I don't want to, a fine or imprisonment. A fine or imprisonment. So either that the taxes as regarded as one of those valid legislated jizyas, or is it something that falls under the category of maks, which is invalid? And as a result of that, the state is collecting from the citizens. I'm not speaking only about this country, I'm speaking about generally. Monies that they are not entitled to. Monies that they are not entitled to. Then again, in terms of the Muslim state, those monies are supposed to go to the Baytul Mal. The Baytul Mal then utilizes that money for people who don't have. Zakah goes towards the maintenance of the state, goes towards the preparing of the armies. It goes towards generally. And that is supposed to be the tax monies goes towards the same, for the same reasons, except that you don't have a Baytul Mal, so you can't approach the revenue department, for example, and say, look, I'm eligible to receive zakah, and I've been paying taxes, and I don't have a job anymore, so I need money to live until I'm able to. I'm indebted. And my debts my debt surpasses my income. My debt is greater than my income, and I'm unable to sustain my simple, humble lifestyle. I require financial assistance. But rather, those revenue departments are the one that puts the person into debt. And they are the ones that impose. And then again, the percentages is very different. Oh, the other thing is zakah. So you have your jizya, and then for people that are that don't fall under the category of jizya, you have what is known as zakah, the Muslims. So they pay zakah. The non-Muslims, they don't pay zakah. In the Muslim state, they would pay jizya. So the Muslims would pay the zakah, and the musta'maneen and the mu'ahadeen or the dhimmiyin, they would pay the protection money, or the money that's known as the jizya. On the other hand, you look at the ratio of zakah versus the ratio of taxes is very, very different. zakah once a year. يحول عليه الحول. The entire lunar year passes by. Once the lunar year passes by, the person has the nisab. The nisab has not at any point in time within the year decreased. If it has decreased, then the year commences from the time when it reaches nisab again. So it reaches nisab, say November, or let's say Dhul Hijjah. Dhul Hijjah comes, his year starts. Next year, Dhul Qa'dah, he's the end of Dhul Qa'dah, he has to pay, he has to dispense of his zakah. Has reached the nisab, has always been throughout the year nisab. Yes. What is the amount now? Rubu al-Ushr, the quote of a tenth, which is 2.5%, he has to pay zakah. How much is taxes? Marwan, what's the percentage of your annual taxes on disposable income? What is the lowest? 18% versus 2.5%. 18% versus 2.5%. Haram. People, they work hard for their money. And life is not easy. And then they upon them is imposed taxes. That is unbearable. And if you go higher, 45%. That is almost half of your income. Half your income for the year you have to pay taxes. Nearly half the income. كيف? The Prophet says, لا يحل مال امرئ إلا بطيب عن نفسه. The money of a believer is haram unless he willingly gives it. I found some people, I'm not going to lie, but I did find people that with a good heart pays their taxes. I don't know if any of with a good heart, they give it with a smile. But most of the people don't give it with a smile. Subhanallah. So, and then after the person, and then a part of the tax that he has to pay from his income whenever he purchases something, then there's VAT imposed upon that. And that value added tax, they call it value added tax. But it hasn't really added much value to our life. Then you pay that as well. And in every item you purchase, with the exception of certain items that is not taxable, that is exempted because it's basic items, it's, they call it essential commodities, there's tax on that as well. So even the person who falls under the bracket of paying tax, and I don't know what the bracket is now, but it's not really important, who falls under the bracket, in reality is also contributing towards, because he has too many purchases, groceries, he still has to pay VAT on his items. And when he puts petrol in his car, he still has to pay. So when you purchase your goods, you pay. When you receive your income, whether it is your salary or you receive your dividends, you have to pay. And then eventually, after the person retires, after he's paid his entire life, now he retires, and he's taxed on his retirement as well, right? Please rectify me if I'm wrong, the experts. Then so he's already paid his entire life. And from that which is managed now to save, from what he's paid already, he has to pay again on that in the retirement. And then eventually he passes away, and his estate is more than 3.5 million, and Zain is qabr, then his heirs has to pay again. Haram. And that's why my advice to people like Marwan, I spoke to him already. I told him that for an accountant, when he studies, one of his intentions must be to save the ummah costs. Because the more you can save the ummah taxes, the more the ummah can contribute towards institutions and masajid, and the more they can pay zakah. Remember, this is besides the Muslim paying zakah. He still has to pay zakah after his taxes. Once he has his money, he has to still pay zakah from that. So what does the person get? Who's going to be responsible? Who's going to be answerable for this? So the good news, if you've been paying taxes, and maybe on the day of Qiyamah you can claim it from SARS. Na'am. This is what Habib Umar bin Abdul Rahman al-Attasi is saying. So my, I don't know if those who attended the Mawlid by Brother Marwan Davis, Abi was speaking about a person who's not in Tareem, and he's living within this country, and he goes through difficulties, and he struggles to maintain his bond and his vehicle, and he goes through this and that. And through that, Allah Ta'ala is actually forgiving his sins. And through it, Allah Ta'ala is preparing to show him mercy on the day of Qiyamah. Because the living in a non-Muslim state is very different to living in an Islamic state. Islamic state, the rules of Islam applies. So there's much more justice. But the oppression of a secular state, through it, by means of it, Allah Ta'ala is forgiving sins of believers. And if we would find, how is it possible that the person lives in a secular state, but he reaches a state of wilayah? Because there's so much destruction, so much fitna. He has to fight himself greater than what a person who lives in an Islamic state has to fight himself. Sorry for my voice. And as a result of that, Allah Ta'ala, an oppression, tax are imposed, undue fines are imposed. He has to abide by laws that is contrary to the laws of Sharia, which he feels it's not right, but he nevertheless has to do it. He can't, for example, go to the ocean and pull out crayfish, even though he loves crayfish, because if he's going to do that, he's going to be fined. Or he can't eat abalone, what they call it, pear lemon, even though it's his favorite, because it's really, who imposed these laws? When he catches a certain amount of fish, then he can be locked up because it is beyond the quota, or those fish is prohibited. Who imposed these laws? Is it your ocean? Is it your sea? Does the fish belong to you? So why is it that the certain stringent laws are imposed upon simple individuals trying to make a living, but the massive companies who have SLAs with the government, service level agreements with the government, they are allowed to pull out so much. I give you an example. Hout Bay is such a sad state of affairs for me. Whenever I drive, when I go to Hout Bay, I feel so sad. Because Hout Bay once upon a time used to be, the main revenue for Hout Bay was fishing. You go to Hout Bay now, you still see people, some of the boats are standing on the sides of the road and it's broken. Because it's a fishing community. They lived on fishing. We used to drive to Hout Bay, used to go buy a fish and a crayfish there and come back again. Then the laws were imposed. Only a certain quota. They made it so difficult that to a point that it was no longer feasible. It was no longer feasible for the normal layman who used to buy, used to sell, and through that he was able to live, put bread on the table. It was no longer feasible for them to maintain a boat, to go out, pay the people who are helping them to fish, risk their life in the ocean, and come back. It wasn't feasible any longer with the quota that they were given. But then came the massive trawlers and the big companies, and they were given massive quotas that they were allowed to fish. As a result of that, the small people that were just trying to make an honest living, they are now sitting, look at what Hout Bay looks like. The amount of people that don't have work, the amount of drugs that is taking place there, people that are just sitting, loitering, they don't have anything to do because there's no permits for them. It's very sad. Who's responsible for that? Who's going to be answerable for that? So therefore, our call to people in environments, particularly government environments, your duty is more to serve humanity than it is for you to enforce upon them laws that are unjustifiable. Am I saying break the laws? No. I say break the laws. But look for ways and means in which you can make people's life easy. Look for ways and means. And for example, within our legal fraternity, there's you get an attorney, he says, look, I can do this, we can do this, but it has to be so and so and so and so and so. Yeah, but I'm going to be paying so much donations tax. And I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. This is... But But as an attorney, I'm coming to you because I need you to assist me. I need you to guide me. I need you to give me the best advice. How can I do it how can I do it without breaking the law, but also save me? But because we've been educated by the very same people who wrote those laws. So they taught us how to think, and we are not allowed to think beyond this. This is what you do even in so situation. Like the doctors at the time of COVID, when the patient comes, you treat them. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is, you can't go beyond it. But no. This is just how you can't go beyond this. Even though there are many other countries that the manner in which they treated the COVID patients was proven to be much more successful than ours. Much more successful than ours. One of it was where they used to they would put certain instruments down within the person's lungs, and they would remove the excess of his of the mucus and the build-up within his lungs to allow his lungs to be able to breathe better. But we never did that. Why? Because no, this was not the directives that we received from the World Health Organization. We received, this was the directives, and we stick to that. Is your service to follow? Is your duty to follow the laws of the World Health Organization, or to serve to save a life? Is your duty to follow the laws of the World Health? Have they now determined for you now how you must think? You as a believer, do you have no brains? You have no aql. And therefore, those who are working within the different departments, whichever field it is, let your intention always be how I can serve the creation of Allah. وَخَيْرُ النَّاسِ أَنْفَعُهُمْ لِلنَّاسِ. Abide the law, abide by the laws. But see how you can serve the creation. Well, that should be your focus and your intention. And I come to an accountant, mathalan, and I tell the accountant, look, here's my books. I want you to do my thing. He said, okay, so and this is a tax. I said, but can't you assist me? Can't you have it reduced? Do I have to pay so much? No, that's how it is. We're governed by the laws. I know you're governed by the laws. I know you, but I'm coming to you for a reason. Otherwise, I can go to anyone else. But I'm coming to you. You're supposed to save me from paying taxes. Not completely, but I mean, give me some. Show me what you have done else. What benefit is there in a Muslim who studies that law, and he's just doing everything that the non-Muslim is doing? Exactly the same, no difference. Na'am. So how did we get to this? We were just speaking about the oppression of a state towards its citizens by taking its wealth. So the long and the short of it is, okay, so now the person, he falls within this dilemma. And there's so many examples. The idea is not to exhaust all of the examples, but I mean, I'm sure you know of much more examples than myself. The point is it completely a lost case? Is it completely a lost case? You can't go up against him. You have to follow the laws of the country. You have to abide to the constitution. If you don't, you can be held criminally liable. Is it completely lost case? No. He's saying, Al-Habib Umar bin Abdul Rahman, is that very same people, the state, or the representatives of the state, on the day of Qiyamah, will be responsible to pay every sin back to you. Meaning you will be a claimant, and you will be claiming from them. MashaAllah. So the people that have been paying 45% tax, Allahu Akbar. MashaAllah, they got a very wealthy deposit on the Akhirah. Big investment. Subhanallah. Allah save us from oppression, Ya Rab. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ibadi, in a hadith, oh my slaves, I have made oppression haram for me. So don't go you and oppress my creation. I've made oppression, I'm the Rabb. If anyone was entitled to oppress, I can do so because you belong to me. I'm your master, you're my slave. But I've made oppression for me haram. So don't you as slaves amongst each other oppress one another. Allahu Akbar. وقال رضي الله عنه لما سمع قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم والله الذي لا إله غيره إن أحدكم لا يعمل بعمل أهل الجنة. The hadith with the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم that comes in Bukhari and Muslim, Rasulullah says that one of you would perform the deeds of the people of Jannah, and then there would be the length of a cubit between him and Jannah, and then predestination kicks in, and then he does the actions of the people of Jahannam, and then he dies in that state and he goes to Jahannam. And the opposite, a person does the entire life the actions of the people of Jahannam, and then there's a cubit between him and death, predestination kicks in, he performs the deeds of the people of Jannah and he enters Jannah. How do you understand this hadith? It's a very dangerous hadith. It's very scary. قال نفع الله به. He said, إن الذي يعمل بعمل أهل الجنة الغالب عليه دخول الجنة لأن الظاهر عنوان الباطن وإن دخل النار فإنما هو على الندور وذلك مثل من سقط من مكان قريب فإن الغالب سلامته وإن الذي يعمل بعمل أهل النار الغالب عليه دخول النار وإن دخل الجنة فإنما هو على الندور وذلك مثل من يتردى من رأس الجبل فإن الغالب هلاكه. Nice. Very nice explanation. He says, the person who does the actions of Jannah, the actions of the people of Jannah, the norm is that he will enter Jannah. And if he enters Jahannam, it is in very rare cases. لأن الظاهر عنوان الباطن, because the external speaks about the reality of the internal. If it's externally, that is what Allah Ta'ala will judge you with the internal. So if he enters Jahannam, إنما هو على الندور, it is the rare, it's a rare case that the person will do good deeds, but at the end of his life, he does a bad deed and he enters Jahannam. As for the person who, and he gives an example, he says like a person, he falls from a very shallow place. He falls. Al-Ghalib, but he stands on a table and he falls off the table. Al-Ghalib, the norm is that he will live, right? The norm is, can a person die? Yes, but it's very rare. You say a person, he just fell off a table and he died. Yeah, it's strange. People fall off steps all the time. People fall from the first floor and they live. So the Ghalib, the norm is the person who does the action of the people of Jannah will enter Jannah. And entering Jahannam, by directly before he passes away, it's like an exception. And the opposite as well. The person who does the actions of the people of Jahannam, may Allah save us and protect us. And then towards the end of his life, he does the actions of the people of Jannah ala nudur. It is also a rare thing. لأن الغالب, a person who falls from a mountain, al-ghalib halaku, he's going to die. And the person who falls from a mountain and he survives, very rare. That is the context of that hadith, which is a very beautiful explanation. And it gives a person some kind of contentment. Because that hadith is a very, very, very scary hadith. When one reads it, you think, subhanAllah, the entire life you do good. And the end of your life, you do something wrong and you die in that state. So he says that is not the norm. That is in rare cases. Like the case of the Sahabi, he became Muslim just before he went to battle. And then he took Shahada just before the Ghazwa. So the call for jihad came. And so he said, Ya Rasulullah, I want to come make Ghazwa. Some of the children of Habib Umar bin Abdul Rahman Attas passed on while he was alive. So he lost some of his kids. People came to him and they came to pay their condolences. They gave their condolences to him. فقال لهم كالمتعجب منهم ما أهون مصيبة الدين عندكم والله لو فاتتني صلاة جماعة لم يعزني منكم أحد يعني لو أنها لو فاتت كان فواتها أشد من موت الوالد الذي تعزونني بموته. الولد. When his children passed away, so people came and they came to pay condolences. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون كل نفس ذائقة الموت. Gave the condolences to him. And so he told him in a very strange way, he told him, I find it so strange. How insignificant is the deen in your sight, in your eyes? I take an oath by Allah, if I had to miss one Jama'ah Salah, then no one of you would have come to me to give me condolences. The way you gave me condolences now for the loss of my son. And yet the loss of one Salah, it is more dangerous than the loss of a son, the loss of a child, the loss of a parent. And this is a reality for us. Our children, how strict are we on the Salah? When they miss a Salah, what is our reaction? And when they knock the car, mathalan, or they break the phone, or they break a plate in the house, break a plate. How can you? Wie jou dier is die boot? Dis Continental. It's a Continental. Mother, I have this. I got this. This was my grandmother's. Salah. It's okay, inshallah. Laat hulle slaap, inshallah, hulle is moeg. Slaap, hulle kan fajr maak as hulle wakker skrik. Musibat. Rather, Habib Umar bin Abdul Rahman Attar says, I can rather have my son die than missing a salah. Let him die rather, but let him not miss a salah. I'm willing to sacrifice my son, but I don't want to sacrifice a Jama'ah Salah. Jama'ah Salah. Allahu Akbar. He says, ما أهون مصيبة الدين عندكم. How is the deen become so insignificant within our eyes? The reality. Person sits and watches TV. Dhuhr adhan goes off. Adhan's finished. Jama'ah's finished. He's still busy watching. The waqt may go in, go out, and he doesn't feel a sin, an iota of remorse within his heart. The fact that he missed the salah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant the deen to be great within our eyes, and the dunya to be inferior and insignificant within our eyes. Ameen ya Rabb. Ameen ya Rabb. We read the last hikmah. He says, وقال رضي الله عنه ما من صاحب طاعة إلا وعليه نظر من ولي لله إما من الأحياء أو من الأموات. Allah. He says there's no one that performs an act of obedience. There's no one that does a good deed except that good deed is a result of a wali of Allah that gazed upon him. Either one who's alive or one who has passed away. Or is on account of a gaze that he receives from a wali of Allah, dead or alive. Anyone who does good, and a person of this is Al-Habib, I want to understand, this is Habib Umar bin Abdul Rahman Al-Attas. This is a person who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had granted kashf. Kashf is when Allah grants you spiritual unveilings. Through it a person sees the reality of this dunya. And through it Allah ta'ala opens up for the person asrar of the hikmah of how he plans things in existence. Even though no human being will understand the complete hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in things. But within us as an ordinary person, for example, me, Allah ta'ala will make me realize the hikmah of something later on. Allah kept this away from me, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me something better, and say, oh subhanallah, if I had gotten that job, where would I have been? I would not have gotten this opportunity. But alhamdulillah, Allah kept that job away from me, and now I got this opportunity. So things like that is Allah Ta'ala's hikmah in existence. We only realize it much later. So when Allah Ta'ala gives the person a kashf, and Allah unveils for him the realities of this world, then he sees the hikam as it's happening in front of him. He sees the hikam. As it's happening, as things are happening, Allah shows, he sees the hikmah behind this and the hikmah behind that, and why Allah Ta'ala made this one sick, why Allah Ta'ala took that one away, and why Allah Ta'ala gave this one, why Allah Ta'ala kept from that one, why this one killed that one, why this one took from that one. Like one of the salihin, he said, Ya Allah, show me your hikmah within your creation. So Allah Ta'ala told him, okay, go to the bank of this river and go stand there, and then you will see the hikmah. He goes and he stands there, he sees a person come with a bag of something in it. He drops the bag on the side of the river, and he gets into the river and he baths. As he's bathing himself, someone comes by and he steals the bag and he runs. As the person is running, he goes further on, He meets another person. That person sees him running. He sees the bag. He says, this must be money. He kills him and he takes the bag and he goes. He says, Ya Allah, what just happened now? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired him. Alhamahullah. Allah ta'ala inspired him. In some narrations they say it was a prophet from Bani Israel. فَأَوْحَى اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ. Allah ta'ala revealed to him. That person that had the money, that got into the river that bathed, that money, that person that got into the river and bathed, that amount of wealth there was money in the bag, the amount of wealth in that bag, his grandfather took from the person that took that wealth. His grandfather took it from his grandfather and he took it back now. And this person that killed the one with the bag, his father was killed by the father of that person. He took it. So he took the money back, came back into his family, and the other one took the life of the retribution. So Sayyidina Ali, when Sayyidina Ali was one of those people, it was min ashab al-mukashafat. Sayyidina Ali, Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab, people who Allah Ta'ala granted those. So he says, when he saw this, he said, كَادَتِ الدُّنْيَا أَن تَكُونَ دَارُ جَزَاء. This dunya has almost become like an abode, a place where Allah Ta'ala is already dishing out rewards. If you do good, Allah gives it to you. Allah puts barakah in your family. Allah Ta'ala keeps away calamities. Allah Ta'ala surrounds you with good people. You do bad, Allah takes away the barakah. Allah makes the family sick. Allah does this. Allah does that. Allah makes the person lose the job. He goes and meets in an accident. So he says, if I see the realities of this world and the hikmah of Allah, it is almost like this world is actually the abode where people are receiving their reward already. Allahu Akbar. And so why I'm saying this is Al-Imam Umar bin Abdul Rahman Al-Attas was one of those people who Allah Ta'ala granted mukashafat and was able to see the haqa'iq, the realities and the hikmah of Allah Ta'ala within His creation. He says, when a person performs, when a person, wherever he is, in a remote area, in an isolated area, if he performs a good deed, that good deed that he performs came on account of a gaze of a wali of Allah, either dead or alive. MashaAllah. When a wali of Allah gazes, I'm immediately now thinking of when we came to Cape Town. One year we were traveling from Joburg with Habib Umar. And then we were on the aeroplane. Before we landed in Cape Town, he was looking down. We were busy landing. So we were like, Cape Town was there and Habib was looking through the window. And then someone took a photo of Habib while he was looking out of the window, like onto Cape Town. And in that time I was thinking, like, subhanAllah, the gaze of a wali like this. Through that gaze, people will become Muslim within Cape Town. Through that gaze, Muslims will change their lives. And that was maybe some 6-7 years ago. And if you look now at the amount of da'wah of the Habib, that is Allahu Akbar. So, every good deed that is performed, behind it was a gaze of a wali of Allah Ta'ala. Like they say, behind every successful man is a wali of Allah. Allahu Akbar. I'm sure the ladies would have hoped to hear something other than that. Behind every good, pious man is a wali of Allah. Behind every good deed that is performed is a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Either gazing or making dua in the middle of the night. And Allah ta'ala doesn't allow those du'as to go in vain. Like Rasulullah made dua in the middle of the night and he cried. And the dua, the effects of the dua of Rasulullah still playing out. So Allah, my ummah, my ummah, my ummah, wallah, my ummah. Oh Allah, don't drown my ummah. We see in Salah. Oh Allah, don't destroy my ummah through drowning. Oh Allah, don't destroy my ummah through fire. Allah, our Prophet made dua for his ummah. We were not destroyed like the people of Nabi Nuh through drowning. So the effects of the dua of Rasulullah are still happening. We're still seeing it. And until the day of Qiyamah, we're still going to see the effects of it. And the day of Qiyamah, you'll see the greatest effect of it. Even in the dunya, the awliya of Allah, because they are vicegerents of Rasulullah, the effects of their du'as and the effect of their gazes, You see the consequences of it. And therefore, is it now far-fetched when a person says, if you look at the face of a salih person, all your sins are forgiven? Who's criticizing? Who's criticizing? إلا صاحب قلب غافل, except the person whose heart is heedless. A person who criticizes, someone who says that if you, a wali of Allah, if he gazes upon you, that your sins are forgiven, is not far-fetched. A wali of Allah, if he gazes upon you, a wali of Allah, if he gazes upon you, he can be the cause that you come out of Jahannam and you enter Jannah. Never mind your sins being forgiven. But because the people that understand these statements, they understand only the zahir of it, the apparent of it, and they have very little batin within them. They haven't grown their ruh. Their ruh is still at the stage of infancy. They may have read a lot of books and they may be educated, but their ruh is still like a baby. Their ruh is still busy crawling. Their heart is still clouded with veils. Their desires have still taken the better part of them. And because of that, they don't understand these statements. Can you blame the person? Can you blame is there something wrong with the statement? Or is there something wrong with the person who understands the statement? Can I say there's something wrong with the Quran because they don't understand the Quran? No. Learn Arabic and you understand the Quran. So is something wrong with the statement? No. Purify your heart and you'll understand the statements. Purify your heart. Start entering into the presence of the awliya. Start entering into their realms. Start entering into their realms and you'll understand the statements. So therefore, people who criticize these types of statements, we pity them. Allah, we pity them because it speaks about the extent they're actually exposing themselves. I was telling some of the mashayikh, when people make statements like this and they criticize the scholars by making statements like this, that make statements like this, they are actually exposing themselves because they are speaking, they are telling the whole world what their reality is, what their spiritual state is. They have not reached the state where they understood the value of Mawlid, for example. Criticize Mawlid. Unfortunately, they have not reached that level where they have seen how the Mawlid has changed the lives of people. They have not tasted what those who make the Mawlid taste. So is something wrong with the Mawlid? Something wrong with your heart, my brother. You need to enter the realm and you need to start learning. And when Allah opens up the doors for you, you'll understand. When Allah opens up the doors for us, Ya Rab. I conclude with a statement Habib Umar said, like a person, you take an apple. He says, it was now in one of the Ruha classes, he says, you take an apple and you take honey. And the person is telling you, explain to me, what does the honey or the apple taste like? He says, the apple is sweet. He said, and honey is also sweet. He said, this is sweet and that is sweet. What is the difference? He said, the apple is sweet, but a different sweet. And the honey is sweet, but a different sweet. You're going to take your whole life to explain. Taste the apple and taste the honey. Khalas, you will know what's the difference between the two. I'm explaining to you what the benefits of this is, what the benefit. Ya akhi, enter the gatherings. Enter into the company of the Salihin. Spend time with the awliya of Allah and you'll understand. You will taste the way they've tasted. And may Allah grant us to taste. Ameen. May Allah not grant us only to taste. May we fill our cups. And may we be quenched with their drinks. Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Ameen. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد الحمد لله رب العالمين على بسر الفاتحة وإلى حضرة النبي